The Harada are a reclusive insect-like race known for its idiosyncratic attitude towards protocol. Felix Leach calls Picard a private dick. And in 2026, a shortstop for the London Kings will break Jolton Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak record. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton and Denise Crosby.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 11, The Big Goodbye, written by Tracy Torme and directed by Joseph L. Scanlon. This was January 9th, 1998. Special thanks to Grandpa One for sponsoring this entire season. And we have a very special guest today, everybody. Felix Leach himself, Mr. Harvey Jason. Hello, Harvey. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
This is so cool. First things first, can we just jump into it and ask you a very important question, which is, what brought you to the United States first and foremost, and Hollywood specifically?
Well, I came here because I was working with now legendary Peter Cook, doing a lot of satire, political satire in London. And we came to New York, and then they brought us out to California. And then I did a lot of work in New York on Broadway and so forth. And then I got brought out here by Robert Wise, to do a film with Julie Andrews. And then I was commuting for a long time. And then ultimately moved out here and stayed here ever since. So I am a transplant to the West Coast. And I've been here next week will be 172 years I've been out here.
Wow. Congratulations.
You look amazing. You look amazing. I want to talk to you about your beauty secrets later. Which movie did you do with Julie?
Star.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So she was my mother-in-law for many years. I was married to Jeffrey Edwards, her stepson with Blake. And I love her dearly. And so you must have known Dudley Moore as well, yeah?
Of course. Yeah,
of course.
Wow.
Loved Dudley.
Very well. Yeah.
Loved him very much. I got to work with him. And actually, I got my SAG card working in the movie 10 that he did. That Blake directed. Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's cool. I didn't know that about you.
Wow, Julie Andrews. I didn't know that about you.
This young man has seen some history. He's a Hollywood legend. Also, something that is near and dear to our hearts, you apparently went to school with one Rene Auberjonois for a year. Is that correct?
Very briefly. I came, very briefly. I went to Carnegie Tech for a minute and a half and met,
a cup of coffee.
Rene, yeah. So we've known each other for a long time. I knew him, we were kids. Yeah. I was very fond of Rene. A lovely fellow and a lovely actor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Carnegie Tech.
Yeah. Okay. So one more thing I just want to bring up before we really get into this episode. Word on the street has it that Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy and the Orville walked into your bookstore that we'd like to get about a little later and actually recognized you as Felix Leach. Is this correct?
Yeah, he did indeed. Yeah, he came in, he said, "Oh my God," he said, "Felix Leach." Well, I didn't realize he knows everything about Star Trek. I mean, he's the number one Star Trek fan. He said, "Oh, Felix Leach." I nearly fell over. I said, "Oh my God, did you know this?" And then he saw, the plate with the
oh yeah,
But no, that was a funny experience doing that because I had known, I knew Gene Roddenberry for a long, long time, and I was very close to Gene and Majel, and I was a big fan of Gene as a person, as well as the fact that he's a tremendous creative talent. He was tremendous, and I remember the very first time I met Gene. I was sent in to meet him for a pilot to play an East Indian. And I went in as an East Indian. And I said, I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Roddenberry. And I'm sitting here talking to him like this, and he's enunciating clearly as though I don't speak proper English. He sat there about 20 minutes, and he said, "Oh, tell me about yourself." And he said, "Well, not a lot to tell, but I work a lot of time when I'm in Delhi. I work a lot of it, and I do a lot of Shakespeare. But I don't." And he said, "Oh, really?" And yeah, I do a lot on the stage. I'm a lot in Delhi and in Agra. I do a lot of work in Agra. And we're talking about 20 minutes, and suddenly I stopped. I said, "Actually, I got to tell you, I'm not really Indian,
God.
Then we had a long conversation, and then he said, "Look, I'd like you to play this part in this pilot that I'm doing," and so we did. It was a terrible pilot, but we had such fun. My old friend Mariette Hartley was in it, and a very dear friend Ted Cassidy was in it.
Oh my God!
Genesis 2, and Gene was really fond of this pilot, and he had our little buttons made. I think there were 5 of us that were starring it, and he had buttons made with our pictures on it. And he had a big party at his house for us, and he had great hopes for it. And it was a disastrous failure. It was a terrible failure. It was awful. It was actually a terrible show, but we had a lot of fun doing it. And he was very disappointed when they didn't pick it up, but we all were too,
Do you remember what the show was about or what it was called?
It was called Genesis 2.
Oh, right.
Was it a science sci-fi thing?
Yeah, it was a sci-fi. There was Mariette, Ted Cassidy, me, and Alex Cord, I think. Alex Cord, yeah. And a couple of other people read it. And sadly, it didn't sell. And Gene Maychell was in it. We were very disappointed. But I remember it was a lot of fun doing it. I remember that. We had a lot of fun. It's 100 years ago. We had a lot of fun doing it. But Gene was very, very helpful to me. At one point, I was writing a movie, and I was having trouble with a particular scene, and I ran into Gene on a set. I was doing a show at the same time as an actor, and Gene came to visit. I said, "Oh, I wonder if you could help me out." And I explained the scene to him. So I'm having trouble writing this particular. He was fantastic, and he worked it out. He was remarkable, absolutely remarkable. He was such a hero to me, this guy, in so many ways, because he was devoid of any sense of, as you must know, he had no pretentiousness whatsoever, no snobbery. He was just a superb person.
Yeah, very generous man, very, very generous.
Yeah, he
with
was.
His heart and his mind, and
and how clever, how brilliantly, what a genius. He really was. He was a genius to me.
Look at this, this legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
so he was sticking with sci-fi. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun episode to do this show. The guy was very difficult. The big actor that what's his name?
Oh, right.
That played
Red Block.
Yeah,
played Red Block.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of his name.
Mm-hmm. Lawrence Tierney.
Larry Tierney.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Tierney C. Diekman, everybody.
Yeah.
That man has done a lot of work. A lot of. Yeah.
I've heard his voice. His voice is so familiar too.
Yeah.
He was a very good actor. I was jealous because his brother was a big film actor, a successful actor. I can't remember his name either. I can't remember my own name, let alone his name. But his brother was a big actor. Steve somebody. He was very resentful about that. He was a difficult guy, this guy.
Really?
How so? How so difficult? Like, in what way?
I remember he would. I'm not being disrespectful of the dead because he was a very good actor, solid presence. But I remember he'd blow a line, then he'd blame one of the technicians. That couldn't send a fucking thing. The guy's light, move it over. And then he'd blow another line and blame it on somebody else.
I literally did that right before we recorded.
Listen, it's a story of my life.
Wow. Huh. He was fabulous in the role. He really had a presence in that role.
Oh, he was a really good actor.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a terrific actor.
Yes. And Harvey, did you
elevated everyone too? You just got a sense of how everyone was sort of acting in that 40s milieu. Everybody stepped their game up a little bit, it felt like to me.
I'll tell you a funny story, because it was Pat Stewart's first thing here. And I had a deal to get very, very cheap transatlantic phone calls. And I think it was illegal, but it was very, very cheap. And I was talking to him about this, and he had no money at this point. So he said, can you give me this? Can you tell me how I can get onto this thing so I can make my cheap calls to London? So I said, yeah, absolutely. And then he came up, he couldn't thank me enough. He said, I'm making these calls constantly. They're like a nickel a piece. It's fabulous.
Wow, that's a great story.
Now today, I'd like to get money back from him for that.
Yeah.
We'll let him know.
We'll send the bill.
Yeah, right. Get in line, Harvey. Get in line.
Yeah.
What about, had you met or worked with Patrick before? Like, had you crossed paths in England?
Never. Not before or since. No.
Oh, interesting.
No.
What else do you remember from your filming of this episode?
I can't remember really what happened last week. So, I mean, as far as that episode, I've had a bit of a loss. I just remember that it was really a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun.
Had you any knowledge of Star Trek before coming on, were you just flying blind?
Absolutely none. I do remember that particular suit was worn by James Cagney. That I do remember. Wow. Because when I went to Western costume, it had the thing. Jimmy.
How fabulous!
Western costume. Wow, that was around back then too.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes. Oh, Western costume was back in the day. It goes back probably to the 30s or 40s.
Wow,
I would imagine. Yeah.
Oh, they're still there, aren't they? I think they're still.
Well,
there.
they're not where they used to be. They're in the valley now.
Oh, I never knew that they weren't in the valley. I've only known them in the valley.
They used to be on Santa Monica Boulevard or Melrose or one of those, giant like.
That's right.
Big, multiple floors. I remember early in my career going there and getting fitted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoyed there was a line that you delivered in this episode that made me laugh. I wrote it down. When Data is pissing you off and he's just rambling on too much, you hit him with enough. Let me kill him.
Yeah,
he's really beginning to irritate me. The way you said it, I thought that was a perfect delivery. I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just loved your accent and your whole, this whole character you created.
Thank you.
It was just delightful, and it was just such a different tone and flavor that the show took on. It was just refreshing on so many levels. And I just thought the guest stars just across the board were tremendous in this particular episode, the best I've seen so far for me.
It was a lot of fun to do. It was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
And I think that because it was new for the regulars, and there was such an enthusiasm.
Yes.
And it was contagious.
Well, they got out of those spacesuits. They got into something, something they could sink their teeth in, that kind of noir vibe that everyone likes anyway. Everybody likes to play that kind of, why I oughta, and this whole thing. So it was just, you could see. I mean, I I couldn't remember this episode at all, but I have very little to do in it. But I was just going, oh God, I wish I could have been in that part, in that holodeck. Why didn't they take me?
Yeah, with a cocktail dress on.
Oh, totally.
One of those long, skinny cigarettes.
Yeah,
it was fun. And then I remember the director called me up and said, I just want you to know that episode won the Peabody Award. I said, I didn't know.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
What?
It's another thing I was going to bring up. And something I didn't know, our good friend and associate producer Marie Segal sends this our way. Your birthday is February 29th?
It is. Yes, it is.
Wow.
That's a leap year, right?
Yeah. So do you celebrate? Do you celebrate on the 28th?
On the 28th.
Okay.
On the 28th. Yeah.
Well, that's how you got to be 176.
Yes.
So he was born
actually only
700 years ago.
Yeah, he's only 15 years old, actually. It's pretty great.
A lot of math there. It's the metric system. We don't.
We can't follow it. We can't follow it.
Another moment I really enjoyed watching you do, Harvey, was this when the scene comes in and you go out, you're like, I'm going to get Mr. Red Block. He's not going to like this. When you finally come back in with him, you're over the shoulder in the background, but the delight on your face that, I got the boss and you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I could see it written all over your face. And I thought it was just, here you are in the background, but I could still pick up your energy from there. And I just watched how you were just rolling over with delight. I'm going to get you guys. I'm going to payback. You shouldn't have hit me.
Yeah. And
I really enjoyed that moment too.
To jump on that, Cirroc, Harvey, upon talking with you, we spoke on the phone a little bit, and upon talking with you today, you seem to have a lot of joy in your heart, like a joie de vivre, right? And that seemed to shine in your performance. And when Cirroc was just saying that, it made me think, is that something that you feel like you brought to every role? Or was this something that you just kind of do as an actor? Or was this one specifically that you said, finally, I can have a little bit of fun with this one?
No, I really don't know. I just know that personally, I live in a state of perpetual gratitude. Because to me, gratitude is the most important of all human emotions. And it's the primary ingredient of happiness. You know what I mean? I don't know a happy person who's not grateful. And I think every one of us has at least something for which to be grateful. And it just propels me through life with enthusiasm. So I don't know. I've felt that for many, many years. And then, 24 years ago when I finished this particular movie and decided that I'd had enough of the acting thing and I was going to go into the book business, I remember I'll tell you what, I remember I was in my trailer with the directors, with Steven Spielberg, and I said to Steven, you know what? When we wrap this film, I'm in the book business. He said, what? And he'd met my family. So I said, Louis, my son, was selling books at book fairs and so forth. And I said, I'm going to go into business with Louis. We're going to open up a shop. He said, what are you talking about? You're one of the stars of this movie. I said, no, but I've done it all my life. And it's a whole new chapter. And he said, I don't believe you. And then we opened the shop 24 and a half years ago. And it's called the #1 first edition shop in America. And I believe that's God's grace. That's God's grace. Because we sell exclusively first edition collectible literature, the greatest books ever written. And it's tremendously rewarding. It's rewarding. And
God, it looks beautiful.
We do a lot of gifts for the Oscars and all the award shows and stuff. But, so I've had a wonderful, a rewarding career in the business. And now another chapter was able to be opened for me, which is rewarding in a very different sense.
And so many big names come into your store and give you their words of encouragement, like Eric Idle here.
Yeah.
Where is the bookstore?
It's on Sunset Strip.
Oh my God! Okay, I cannot wait to come in.
Yes.
Oh, it's just. I mean, it's.
It looks gorgeous.
To work with my son and then to be surrounded by the greatest books ever written in the first edition. We've got the first separate printings of Shakespeare's plays here. I mean, we've got some incredible, it's investment literature, really,
Yeah, sure. Well, we are big book lovers in my family, so definitely, I cannot wait to come in.
Oh, that's really cool. And the place is called Mystery Pier Books. You can find that at mysterypierbooks.com, everybody. If you're local, even if you're not local, please do check it out. There's no way Seth MacFarlane's going to walk into some rinky-dink place. Obviously, this is the real deal, and it comes very highly regarded, apparently.
I love Seth's quote you have. I love the bookstore. Now I have to learn to read.
I have to learn how to read.
It was great, of course.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and Harvey, we really appreciate you taking the time today to join us.
It's an honor and it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great privilege. Thank you.
I love the sentiment you shared with us as well. It's really important to put that out into the world, to put gratitude on the table, and remind ourselves always of to come forth from that point. And I think it will. I think it was really a beautiful thing for you to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Listen, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Harvey, thank you. We appreciate you. Everybody go check out mysterypierbooks.com. Stick around, everybody. We will be right back with a little bit more on the 7th rule.